Gurus Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to all the gurus, sages, mystics, saints, adepts, pharaonic mystics, and lovers of truth from time immemorial. Libations. Igum Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to our spiritual ancestors and predecessors who have gone before us and paved the way, who have left us their DNA, their legacy of love, and the means by which we too may become self and God realized in this very lifetime, not only for our sakes, but for the sakes of all sentient beings. Libations. Sangha Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to all of the great spiritual traditions and communities that have walked before us, who have preserved the Dharma in its various forms on behalf of the Dharma giver, who have worked in great cooperation and love to preserve the Dharma. May we too walk in their footsteps and become a great spiritual tradition so that we can bring our own suffering to an end, to help others bring their suffering to an end in this very lifetime. Libations. Sant Satguru Mojiba, Ibai. We pay homage to our beloved Huzur Maharaj Charan Singh Ji, who left us his legacy of love, his gurumukhs, his sons, his dharmas, so that we too may realize his great spiritual condition. We thank you for your mercy, your compassion, and your ever-flowing grace, that we may become self and God realized in this lifetime for the sakes of all sentient beings. Libations.
I think, if it's all right with you, I'd like to ask Bilal if he will start us with a story. And of course, he's had no warning, no chance to say no. And It's a story our grandmother told us that explained that extraordinary phenomena called devotion. That which causes real devotion to the Lord. Very often we try to argue ourselves into a state of devotion. To come up with all kinds of logical arguments we can make to ourselves with the hope that it would trigger in us the kind of ecstatic love for the Lord that we admire when we read the biographies of the great devotees, the great bhaktas. But as the story will reveal, you can't cultivate bhakti through a mere intellectual process. You can read the Quran, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Zivestas, the Dhammapada. You can read all of the spiritual literature on the planet and emerge from that ordeal with not 1 ounce of love and devotion for God. Because that's not how love and devotion for God occurs. It occurs within the context of a personal experience and a personal relationship. It is not imagination. It is not the result of merely emoting yourself. That come and goes. So Bilal, if you can recall Big Mama tale of Melvin Scholl.
Oh, God. I'll shake a minute.
I'll shake it aloud.
Ugh. Heard me on that. Well, this is a true story. A long time ago, this is when we were little boys. And some of the old heads know back in the old days, give me a moment. I don't even like to tell this story anymore. But anyway, we were little, one of my grandmother's friends from down home came up, you know, and the way they fellowship back in those days, but tell the story, I had to think about my grandmother in that context, and that's hard.
It's all right, brother. Take your
But her friend Melvin Shoulder came up from down south, and came over. He brought his grandkids with him, and you know, of course, we were little boys, about 5 or 6 too. So we playing with the kids while the grown folks talked in the front room. The way the house was made, we was in the dining room. I was entertaining his grandson, and so they were sitting there in the front room. Not just Melvin Shoulder, there was some more people, you know, from down home. He bringing up the latest info from down home and whatnot. He's an old guy, real dark, had a big white mustache. And I'm playing with his grandson in the dining room, minding my own business. And the old grown folks, you know, you can't sit by the grown folks, but you know, we was in the earshot range, and I'm casually listening. And they cracked the Bible out, you know, and they said a few words and whatnot. And Melvin Shoulder jumped up on my grandmother's cocktail table. started shouting on her cocktail table. And you know, we weren't even allowed to touch the cocktail table. This man jumps up and started tap that, well, you know, doing the holy dance on her cocktail table. So that, you know, that really threw me off, you know. Wow. You know, and so that stuck with me for years. You know, I mean, it was hard calming them down. You know, they had to, you know, it was just a brief meeting. I mean, they didn't say but a couple of words. It wasn't nothing real profound. I thought profound that was said. And that always stuck with me about that incident from way back then, you know. So after I got up big and everything, I still have to ask Big Mama, well, what about Melvin's shoulder? You know, because she caught me up with it. He had since died and all of that. I said, well, why did he jump up and start shouting like that? You know, I mean, it wasn't like he heard nothing profound. You know, he just cracked the Bible and read a few little passages, you know. And I mean, he was really, I mean, they had to fan him, you know. Calm Melvin down, you know. And so she said, well, the story was that back in the old days, he had a lot of kids. And then they were raising them up during the Depression time, you know. So you got a black man down in Mississippi, you know, no job, no education to get anything else other than a little farming. And so Melvin said every day he wake up, he didn't know how they were going to eat, he didn't know nothing. He just, when he woke up, he didn't know what happened. And he lived that way for a long time. Raised all his kids, and from what she said, most of them did good. You know, teachers, police, and all of this and whatnot. And he was just so thankful for that. That it took him to another place, spiritually. So the rest of that story sound like, you know, I know most of you have heard that story with Shirley Caesar talking about how to hold my mule and stuff. That song that she sing. Well, the story was real similar to that, because Melvin would never even come into church. He could never stay in there. He just come in and listen at the window. Walk around. Melvin would just walk around and listen every now and then, and walk around the church and shout all Sunday. You know, he didn't want to come in and just disturb everybody, but he just come in and get an earful. And so he got like that so bad that, you know, people just started saying he was crazy. You know, it's one thing to be religious, but then he was crazy, you know, for they said he's going too far with this. And they had Melvin, eventually on down the line, they had Melvin committed. They had Melvin committed. But they said that Melvin was praying, being Melvin so much that he was almost like that story in Paul. He found himself outside the walls. Came on home. And they didn't mess with him no more. So that's the story of Melvin's shoulder. Best I can tell it. It's getting harder. I might not ever tell that story again, because you see it's too hard. He could have picked another story. I like telling stories. I like telling stories, but I don't like to tell that one too much. But anyway, that's enough.
That's a good story, brother.
That's it.
I wanted Bilal to share that story with you. As a preface to a poem that I've asked Mukherjee to read, taken from Tukaram. Because what happened to Melvin happened to Tukaram. Hundreds of years before there was a Melvin show. It has happened to many people over the course of history. It is the task of the poet to find some kind of way to paint in words what drove Melvin shoulders to those extents. Crazy with emotion. A few things about Tukaram before Mukherjee recites one of his poems to explain that phenomena called radical love of God. Tukaram is a saint poet from the south of India. And he lived in the early parts of the 17th century. And Tukaram, like Melvin Shoulders, went through some real hard times in his life. By the age of 21, he had already been married and fathered 6 children. There was a famine, and that part of South India where he lived, that wiped out his livelihood. Subjected him to bone-crushing poverty. He watched his wife and several of his children starve to death. Broke his heart, but broke his heart wide open, you see. And he began to realize that he's going to need something a lot more profound than doctrines, dogma, theory, philosophy, psychology, if he is going to survive the human condition. And it is said that he was so heartbroken, they didn't have to take him away. He left of his own accord. Didn't want anything more to do with this thing called human existence. Too difficult, too heartbreaking, too tragic, beyond his capacity. And perhaps, like Melvin Shoulder, Tukaram also went crazy because he says that in one night dream, Krishna, who is the Lord, the particular religion that he was familiar with, came to him and initiated him into poetry and explained to him that all of that was destroyed because that's not his work. His lifetime in living is to be devoted exclusively to singing of the praise and the grace of the Lord. Thus began the career of what is perhaps Southern India greatest poet of that time. Something like a Shakespeare, a Goethe. Prolific. Some 8,000 poems are attributed to Tukaram. They're not just poems. In Sanskrit, we call them avant-garde poetry set to music and then performed. And his avant-gardes are still being sung to this very day. So I asked Mukherjee to recite a poem that I heard them read in one of their Kula meetings. And then most of the Kula meetings, the participants will bring some food, what we call langar, bring some food taken from the writings or sayings of the mystic, somebody that knows what they're talking about, because often in the Kula, the members that make up that Kula don't have a clue what they're talking about. And so I have to hear something to justify my listening. So I insist that they bring something from the saints. And I'm able to tolerate their nonsense from that point of view. And Mukherjee, on that particular occasion, all of the coolers brings exquisite food. I wish you all could listen to these conversations, but of course we observe a strict rule of confidentiality. But the food that is served in the form of the sharing of the sayings of the gurus is exquisite. It is gourmet. And on this particular occasion, Mukherjee, for some reason or another, I didn't even know she knew who Tukaram was, chose one of the poems of Tukaram that speaks of the Melvin Shoulders phenomena, the phenomena of devotion. And so I asked her if she would be kind enough to share that point with you, and maybe you too will fall in love with Tukaram as I did many years ago. Tukaram was a part of a gang of Rome Bhakti poets. All of them were mostly Sudras. I don't know if you know what the Sudras. These are the low-class people in India, the dark-skinned people, those remnants of Africa who migrated to the Indus Kush Valley, who were incidentally the original inhabitants of India, who was pushed down to the south of India with the invasion from the steppes, the Aryan invasion. But they took down there with them some of that same spirituality that informed the spiritual traditions of ancient Kemet, you see. Even their representation of the God was black. Lord Krishna is black, you see. And they created a whole culture of devotion. Tukaram was a part of that extraordinary group of saints. So Mukherjee, if you can stay more composed than Bilal.
I hope so.
Share a little Tukaram Maharaj.
I am harassed to the extreme from all sides. Whose shelter shall I seek now? I cannot bear to know any more of worldly life. No one belongs to me. What shall I do with this mind? It has no wish to give up sensual pleasures. Only you, Lord, can come to my rescue. I do not think anyone else can control it. My meditation is so weak that I am worried whether you will make me your own, whether I will get your vision, whether you will talk to me or even remember me. Why don't you take pity on me, O Lord, though you dwell right in my heart, O heartless God, devoid of all goodness. I am crying my throat hoarse. Why does my mind not obtain peace? Why are you still angry with me? Asked Tuka. Are my sins not yet destroyed? All of these weaknesses have led me to surrender to you. I have no more worries, now says Tuka, since I have no need of past merits. and I have become your marked servant. The supreme state of bliss soars up and around me, like a canopy, like a shield. The heavens are thundering and reverberating sounds divine. Tuka's Lord has installed him in his own self.
So between these two, you get some sense of what is required of us to embark upon the spiritual journey, to walk the spiritual path, and not really talk the talk. There must be this source of desperation in you that is being addressed, not curiosity. Not the search for miraculous powers, out-of-body experiences, so forth and so on. That's what attracts the superficial and the curiosity seeker to the path. But the path is not intended for such mediocre people. It is only there for the sake of those who really need something for real. And unless that is your heartfelt disposition, then you will simply make a mummery out of this great spiritual tradition. You'll make philosophy out of it. You'll make psychology out of it. You'll try to use it for this and that purpose to enhance your status, you see. You would abuse the teachings and those who give it and reduce them to simply means to glorify yourself and indulge yourself. But there must, at some point in our journey, come a moment that transforms us, you see. And people who know you will know then that you're not playing no more. So I wanted to offer you that to consider today's and this occasion that we have gathered, which incidentally marks exactly 41 years ago on this day, a Sunday, around about 1 o'clock, I was, by grace, given something to hold on to. So I'm hoping that the same will happen to you.
Yes.
Who
So this tale of Melvin, this poem of Tukaram Maharaj, this song of Myrna Saunders, it's old school, but it speaks to exactly what is required of us. And so you are to use these gifts given here today and sit with yourself and really find out if you really need the Lord. No fooling, no kidding. Try to find out if you really do like those women singing on that particular song are singing from the Federal Institution of Corrections for Women. They really needed something. The question is, do you need something? More than philosophy, more than religion, more than psychology, more than therapy. Do you need something? And how you answer that question will determine your whole outcome on the spiritual path. The spiritual path, the adepts, the God realizers, the Dharma givers, the gurus, the rebbes, the lamas. They come for those who really need something, who ain't bullshitting and playing in their head and playing in their imagination. Feeling me? You're a bullshitter. Path is not for you. There's mosques, there's temples, there's churches, there's gurdwaras, and there's classrooms on philosophy and psychology, and a therapist's couch for you. You got insurance. Pat, this is not for you. So you have to find that out about yourself. One of the first things that occurs in the Guru-disciple relationship, well, maybe I should only speak from my own point of view and experience. I cannot speak for everyone who has gone to a guru. But certainly from my observation and experience, both personal and otherwise, it seems to me that the first gift that the Guru gives us is the very consideration I'm offering you to go find out. If this is what you need. You see, Maharaji, all saints say that you have to need God like a fish needs water. You see, like a drowning man needs air. Can't be a casual affair. So we are asked to consider, do you have need of this? To examine our life. And really find ourselves out. So you got to find yourself out. This is the whole reason why emphasis is placed on knowing thyself. You must know thyself, you see. You must investigate thyself. You must find yourself out. You must find out what you're up to. so very often, you see, beloved, we're so caught up in just the day-to-day activity that we all are involved in, that we never stand back from it and pause and look and investigate and try to see what are you really up to, you see. So one of the questions that the Guru asked us to do is to consider how you do in life. I mean, take a look at that. How are you doing in your life? What are you really doing? Seriously. You could take all of your activities and reduce them down to their most fundamental component and motive. What would that fundamental component and motive be? Have you ever thought about it? What are you always doing? In fact, doing with your whole life. This must be understood. This must be recognized. That recognition is the basis for your receptivity to the instructions and the guidance of the adept, of the Guru. You see, when you really have not truly investigated what you're up to, then you don't know the trouble you're in. You see, Tukaram, Melvin Scholes, and many others whose names are long forgotten. They noticed their human condition, and they found out, I'm in trouble. This is not it. And on the basis of that revelation, that insight, they became receptive. They could be instructed. You follow me? They could be gurued. Most of us can't be gurued. That's just the truth. Because you don't feel a need to be gurued. You have not yet realized your predicament, your condition here in this place. So all of the spiritual teachers asked us to pause for a moment and look at it. See what you are always doing. See how you're doing life. And if your investigation is profound, deep, not superficial, what you will find that what you are always doing is trying to feel good. Consider it. So you're always only trying to feel good, or at least not worse. You're doing that now. And we resort to all kinds of things, you see, motivated always by that same impulse, trying to feel good in this place, you see, in this body, in this circumstance, in this relationship, you see. In every relationship you have, you are motivated out of this fundamental impulse to use that relationship to make yourself feel good. You must see this. And when you are able to see beneath this mechanism, you will also begin to see that you are never able to feel good enough long enough. That even in those fleeting moments when you are able to pull it off, it does not last. transient, temporary, and then again you are restored to your baseline condition, which is feeling bad. See, why would you seek to feel good if you weren't already feeling bad? Are you following my argument?
Yes, sir.
And you're doing everything you can to give yourself some relief, some respite from this fundamental sense of not feeling good enough. You see? You done tried everything. At some point, you see, in that ordeal, you realize the futility of it. And then you become a candidate to become a doctor. You see? Now you are able to be receptive because you come to the Lord already clear about it. This is futile. And there's no doubt about it. Everything that I'm doing in order to feel good is futile. It just does not work. And I need something. Follow me? More than what I've been able to find in this place. I've looked in relationships. I've looked into money, food, sex, you see, therapy, philosophy, religion, this, that. And I can't find that which gives me the fulfillment I am seeking. Give me something. That is real, because everything that I found down in this place, that ain't real happiness, that ain't the real deal, shit ain't real. Y'all feeling me?
Yes, sir.
So you gotta get clear about all of that. And upon further investigation, you are horrified to discover that ain't nobody making you feel bad. It's your own activity. You're making yourself feel bad, and then you're seeking ways to feel better, none of which give you any lasting relief from feeling bad. You begin to find out now, what are you doing to make yourself so miserable that you gotta seek high and low, this and that. You see, drugs, alcohol, you name it. Nothing is off the table. Gets rather profound, don't you think?
Yes, sir.
So this becomes the first phase of our being guru. You see, we have to be helped to understand ourselves, because you do not understand yourself, nor do you understand where you are at. You think this is Disney World. You think you're going to still pull it off. You're not going to pull it off. You're still hoping and praying that you will pull it off. Such hope and praying is futile. You're not going to pull it off. And you must understand this, or be helped to understand it, you see. And the difficulty that the guru have with us, you see, we keep resisting such help. We're in a kind of inertia. You keep falling back away from the sadhana and relying on those strategies that has already proven to be futile in getting you what you want and need. And then there's that struggle to overcome your egoic inertia, you see. Your resistance. To the help that the Guru makes available to us, you see. You actually resist it because it takes you out of your old accustomed ways, patterns, habits, so forth. Stop me now, it gets worse. Stop me. So those are just a few things I offer you to consider, but of course on these occasions, I'm here to respond to your inquiry. So if something you rascals would like to further investigate, you're most welcome to point me in that direction. Otherwise, I'll take a nap. Yes, beloved.
Beloved Guru Sahib, I want to say that could it be that this place that we're in, we call Earth or Penda, or better yet the physical realm, could it be because it's that much suffering that, you know, that's the reason why we all seek to feel better? Because it's a feeling underneath that always, you know, it always drives us to feel better or to do something to make us feel not worse than what we already feel, like you mentioned. You know.
You see, beloved, that is the conventional presumption when one has not really inspected one's own experience of suffering. You see, how you feel is your reaction to this conditional realm. You see, it does not come from it. You follow me? It is something you are doing in response to it. You see, when people are confronted with the reality of conditional existence, when you really begin to see that nothing here lasts, everything is constantly changing, temporary and permanent. When you begin to see that it is full of death, you follow me, so forth. When you begin to intuit how it really is, right? When you hash out of your fantasy and your childishness and see the reality, you see, and begin to understand the reality of the vicissitude and that bad shit will happen to you and so forth and so on. Well, some people's reaction and response to this reality is to be depressed, to be angry, follow me? To be disappointed, to become discouraged. But whatever your emotional disposition is, it is your reaction. It's something you are doing. You are reacting. No one is making you react to the reality of life in the drum of depression or in the drum of addiction or many other forms of suffering. Suffering is optional. What is inherent is pain. You follow me? Pain is a part of this experience, you see. Certainly, you see. Death, you see, that's inherent. You see. But even how you respond to that determines whether you suffer that reality or not, you see. You get an understanding?
Yes, sir.
And you see, beloved, you must become responsible for your own reactivity and stop blaming fate, destiny, and so forth and so on. You follow what I'm saying? You are doing that. But you must see that and not make philosophy out of it, not make it dogma, not make it just esoteric information. You must see exactly what you are doing to create your own suffering. You see? And most often you will find what you're doing is wanting something to be other than the way it is. You want reality to be other than the way it is. You want it to be hunky-dory. You're trying to make it hunky-dory. Are you with me? You're trying to feel good moment to moment in a place where that is futile, you see. Absolutely futile. Can't happen. And we come to the spiritual path in the hope of finding something that we can use to pull that off. You see, we use the methods, the techniques, the technology that we get from the gurus and try to make our mundane existence hunky-dory. We're trying to pull that off, you see. And when we discover we can't pull it off, well, that's the end of the path in meditation, done. You follow what I'm saying? Next. You follow what I'm saying? Let me read more books, you see. Because reading books make you feel good, temporarily. You see, it relieves you of the agony of ignorance, doubt, confusion, you see. But then it wears off, and then you got to read another book, and another book, and another book, and so it goes up. Never getting any kind of permanent knowledge, you see. So, beloved, there's nothing in the water. There's nothing in the air. It's not in the sunshine. It's your own activity. And this is what you must find out about yourself. Not just merely in an intellectual sense, you know, not merely through a process of logic and reasoning. You must really catch yourself. You must see what you're doing. It's actually something like you're doing, you see. It's like opening and closing my hand. You follow what I'm saying? It's on that level. It's very basic, very direct, you know. It's like swallowing, moving my mouth, frowning my brow, clenching my teeth. It's on that level, you see. It's not nothing mysterious about it. You see, it's like pinching yourself. You're doing it, and you're doing it moment to moment. You see. So you create suffering through your reaction, and then you pursue all kinds of ways to give yourself relief from the very suffering you create. Now perhaps we could go a little bit deeper as we go through this occasion today, but hopefully it gives you something to consider, to ponder. Yes, beloved.
Master, is there a place where you can be happy all the time? Moment to moment?
There's a bar across the street. I guess you could say yes to that, but it's not in this place. Okay. You know what I mean? There's nowhere in the realm of conditional reality, nowhere in your waking state experience are you going to be able to find any possibility of being happy with no interruption, feeling good with no interruption. That doesn't happen in the waking state. The waking state experiences that you're having, that's all arising in the realm of conditional reality. Are you following me? You're not going to have that, you see. That's an error that many of us who come to the spiritual path make. We think what the gurus offer us is going to be found in the waking state. No, it's not going to be found in the waking state. There are other states, you see, beyond this, the turiya, turita, and so forth and so on, you see. Even the dream, deep dreamless sleeps, you see, so forth and so on. But it's not going to be in the waking state. The waking state must be transcended in some sense. So, there's another way of looking at this too, that is not metaphysical, but more humanistic. Maharaji used to always give the example, beloved, that of a child attending a fairground with all the amusements and so forth. And child is walking with his father, and they're going and they're enjoying the thing, and then the child lets go of the father's hand and then becomes lost in the crowd. And then suddenly, funland turns into nightmare. You follow me? because you've lost that connection, you see. So in some sense, you see, beloved, it's possible to have a different experience here in this place if you hold in the hand of the Lord, you see, metaphorically speaking. Are you with me? If you can keep your attention on that represents God to you, then you can have a very different kind of experience here, you see? But when you forget about God, when your attention comes off of God, when you let go of that hand, this is nightmare. Are you with me? And you're not going to have any fun, even though you walk in the grounds of fun land. You see fun all around you. But you're not in union with, in communion with that which is the source of happiness, you see. It is that connect to happiness that gives you happiness. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Happiness, quay happiness, is just another name for God, you see. Love is just another name for God, you know. In fact, they say God is love, you see. And Hindu philosophy, the God is Ananda, Satchidananda, you see. The true bliss, you follow me? And that which is real. Everything else is mine. Everything else is separate. Hold on to that which is Satchidananda, you see. And then you will be swoon in this place. You follow me? Transcended of it, you see. Happy, but not based on anything going around. Happy because you have your Father's hand. You follow me? That's what sadhana is. It's what meditation is. It's what yoga, real yoga, not physical exercises, real yoga. To yoke, to reunion, to connect to the divine. You see, you're not connected to the divine. You're connected to Samaya. Samaya can't help you. You found that out already. You see, you're thinking, ooh, if I had a pretty wife, a pretty woman, cook good, get divorced, I'll be happy. She'll make me feel good all the time. Is that true? We do the same thing with our children. I make some children, I become a parent, and blah, blah, blah. My children will make me feel good. Is that true?
No.
Is anything that you have done under the presumption that it's going to make you feel good, and that's that? Has any of that been true?
No.
See, so you know the truth. That's why when the mystic talk to us, it resonates, because you know that. You just don't want to accept it. The truth is your direct experience. How can you have any experience of anything other than what is the truth? It does not last. It is not the source. This is your experience. It's not a philosophy. You see? It is your direct experience. You are directly experiencing the inability of anything and anyone to give you the kind of lasting satisfaction you are seeking. You know that already, but you don't want to accept it, the truth, because you have not yet become a seeker of truth. Are you following? But deep down inside, you know that's the truth. And until that truth is accepted, you see, beloved, you see, no sadhana, no meditation, no real spiritual practice is possible for you. You see, nobody gets serious on a spiritual path. Nobody becomes a tukaram, you see, a Melvin Cho, a devotee, a disciple. Nobody becomes serious about it until you have had that kind of life transforming, life rewarding, radical understanding and acceptance of the inherent futility of your effort to feel good enough, long enough, you see, unless you have seen the futility of that, nothing happens. You will remain absorbed in the pursuit of that which is ephemeral. Are you with me? Yeah, you would say Allahu Akbar. Yeah, God is great, but bullshit is greater. You always say, yeah, God is great, but he ain't as great as this ice cream, this pizza, and my wife. And some money, you know, God don't trump money.
Question over here.
Yes. Yes, beloved.
Is it safe to say, Master, that with being born in this world, seeing the human experience, circumstances are created to get a reaction out of you, and with those reactions, we have those emotions. Those have to be subdued in the sense that they won't create something that could damage us.
I think that's a very succinct way of looking at it. It certainly has other dimensions to it, but fundamentally, yes, you are born in this realm. You see, you will react. This reacting and acting, that's called karma. That's what karma is. This is a realm of karma. You don't have an option to not just sit on your ass and do nothing. That's not this place. You see? That is already in you. That's your karma. You see? You will act and you will react. That's given. How you do both of those makes the difference, you see. And one of the things, beloved, you have to begin to see is notice what actually is the consequences of your actions. Now the saints and seers, they kind of give us a head up, even to kind of help us gain this kind of wisdom. And they give us a moral code, an ethical code, that most of us dismiss. You follow what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to be enlightened, I ain't trying to be moral. You see, I'm trying to be God realized. I'm not trying to be a good human being. You know, I'm trying to be God realized, enlightened. I'm not trying to be moral and ethical. You see. But that moral and ethical way of life and living, that's the foundation. People who are not moral and ethical, you don't become enlightened. That ain't gonna happen. You have no foundation for it. Are you with me? Now we usually skirt that, especially those of us here in the West. You follow what I'm saying? So even when people get initiated, you see, beloved, they'll say, I'm trying to do my meditation, but you're smoking reefer. That's gotta go. I'm trying to do my meditation, but I'm running around with every, woman I can get my hand on. That's got to get corrected. You got to get straight. You follow what I'm saying? And that's is one of the, again, advantages of the Guru, because the Guru will tell us, at least it rests on us, but the Guru will tell you got to get straight, man. You see? Go get a job, get married, get in a committed relationship, get straight. You follow me? So they have a whole list of these things you need to do to get straight. And you're not expected to take 10 years to get straight. Do that by this afternoon. You should be straight. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter how difficult your life is and what your circumstances is and all of that. Okay, I understand that. Just get straight. You follow what I'm saying? You still get straight no matter what the circumstance of your life are. You are not relieved of the responsibility of getting straight. Well, wait, Master, give me 10 more years to get straight. you know, trying to settle down and curb my sexual promiscuousness, you know, let me check out 10,000 more women and see if I can find one of them. You know, let me taste and test each one. You know? You see, get straight. That's a prerequisite. Follow me? You're not going to do nothing like meditation. You can't do anything like meditation. You don't have no foundation. So, beloved, what they have done is they have put together a whole kind of moral code, ethical code, and every even religion have that. Most religions don't go past that, incidentally, nor do they enforce it. But it has some historical significance, you see. The 10 Commandments, you see, is a prescription, right? Don't kill, don't steal, blah, 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 right? You see? Because if you do those things, that's going to be a negative reaction to this place, and you're going to suffer. Those are the things that are going to create in you a kind of ignorance that's going to cause you to always respond the wrong damn way to this place, and you're going to suffer. You follow me? The African mystics in ancient Egypt and Kemet had a code, out of which the 10 Commandments, incidentally, has its origin. And they were called the 42 negative confessions. Negative only because they said, I have not done this thing. You see, I have not done that thing. I have not killed anybody. I have not stolen, et cetera, et cetera. And one is to begin to conform one's life and living to those standards, you see. That's what getting straight is all about. You follow me? You see? The East and the Hindu and Buddhist tradition, they talk about yamas and the yamas. You see? If you study Patanjali Eightfold Yoga, you see, the preparation for that is always yamas and niyamas. Yamas mean things that you don't do. Niyamas are things you must do. You follow me? You see, the niyamas are, you gotta get straight. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And when you get straight like that, okay, then suddenly your life smooths out. You follow me? You see, you gotta cultivate the qualities of compassion. You see, tolerance, patience, because if you don't, your mind will be in so much turmoil. You can't think. You can't do the meditation. You're so full of resentment and ill will and self-pity and clinging to resentment about some shit people did to you 20 years ago. You bitter, you're complaining and blaming all the time. That kind of mind can't do no meditation. It can't think about God. It's too busy thinking about its own damn self. That's ego. You follow me? And so unless we observe and adhere to those principles, those precepts, you see, then we only reinforce our egoic condition, not transcend it, you see. So you're right in that sense, you see. Now there's a lot more about it, you see. And if you loaned your dad there some extra money, I'm sure he'll be happy to tell you all about it. He's out of the real estate business, you know, so you gotta have some hustle, okay? Did that help you, sir? Yes. See, the path is not going to console you in the traditional sense. It is purpose to give you something that really consoles you. But to get that, you're going to have to suffer. Are you with me? The consolation that a Tukaram seeks, or the Mirabah seeks, you see, or Muktaba seeks, you know, or any of these poet saints, or Bhakti, or Tsiya, that is not a worldly form of consolation. They're not saying like in the church, God, let me win the lottery, give me a car, give me a husband, make sure nothing happened to my kids. That's not the kind of consolation they are imploring the Lord to give them. Are you with me? Their consolation they're looking for is transcendental. The consolation we are looking for is very mundane, and that's what we come to the Guru for, you see. Help me find mundane consolation, you see. And it's always regarding two things, because we have two fundamental problems as ego-bound individuals, you see, trapped in the body, mind, and so forth. first problem, you're gonna die. It's the first problem. You see? And you already know that. You try to keep that at bay. You try to suppress it, but you know damn well you're gonna die. You follow what I'm saying? And so you're trying to live as much as you can. You're trying to get as much as you can. It's like being on a shopping spree with 10 minutes, you see? That becomes your second problem, you see? Because you're trying to be as happy and feel as good as you can before you die. But the problem is, you can't even feel as happy and as good as you need and want to feel. So that's your second problem. You're gonna die, and in the meantime, you can't feel good. You feeling bad, and you're gonna die. That's too much. That'll keep you in strip clubs. All other kinds of dens of iniquity. Are you feeling me? It's your problem. It's all of our problems. All of that's got to be dealt with. All of that's got to be dealt with. Something else to say about it? Yes, beloved.
That's, excuse me, are there any practical or intuitive indications that you have done your contemplation as you told us to do to the point that you are serious? Are there any means of detecting that or determining that?
Any signs for that?
Yes.
Yes, the diminishment of your suffering, you see, and the increase of your love, your compassion, the flowering in you of all of those qualities that are associated with your inner divinity. You see, you become more compassionate, more tolerant, more patient, more kind, more generous, more loving, more forgiving. You see, more humble. You see, able to endure that which is difficult to endure, able to do that which is hard to do. You see, able to function outside the limitation of your comfort zone, able to be governed by a principle greater than your likes and dislikes. You follow me? Capable of functional intelligence. You see, all of those become signs of the enriching, you see, occurring in you. You see, so forth and so on. They are the signs of grace. Because that's what sadhana does, you see. It connects you to grace. You follow me? And so when we are reluctant and resistant to spiritual practice, we're cutting ourselves off from grace. You see. We're letting go of the Father's hand. You see. We're doing that. And as we begin to connect again, it reverses all of those prior emotional symptoms and mental symptoms of our disconnection, you see. See, that's what ego is, you see, Aliyasi. Ego is a kind of contraction from God, you know, a movement away from God. You see, so deliberate, you see, withdrawal and recoil from God. That's what ego is. It's the feeling of separation, the presumption of separation, you see, that you are disconnected from the very source, you know. There's God over here, and then there's you. You follow me? Ego is an act of abandonment of God. You see? And then you suffer all of that. So that's the purpose of the techniques given in it to us to practice, you see. One has a mantra, you see, and the mantras consist of names and so forth and so on that we use to represent God, because God is formless. So we have to create something that is accessible to us and let that represent God. Follow me? That is the function of symbolism and iconography and so forth. You see, no one takes this statue of Lord Krishna to be really Lord Krishna. It is simply a symbol, a representation. No one takes the hawk head of Heru to be really literal. Follow me? It's not a literal interpretation here, you see? Although some people take this stuff literal, they become fundamentalists, you see? But the point is that there is the understanding that I use something to represent God, that make God experiential for me, because God, qua God, is formless. You follow me? So you use a mantra in some instances, you see? And then you do feeling repetition of that mantra as a means of being connected to God, you see? Dion, visualization, you see? You do feeling contemplation of either some icon or the guru, and that's again another device, a means. You follow what I'm saying? The physical body of the guru, that's not God. You follow what I'm saying? You use it to represent it. It's a means. Are you following?
Yes.
The feeling, listening to Shabbat and so forth and so on. Won't go into all of that. We're in mixed company, but you get my point.
Yes.
Hmm? And those become the means by which you give your attention. You see? See, the proposition that God says, don't try to deal with all this stuff. Give me your attention. That's it. That's called satsang in Hindi. You see? That's satsang. This is a lecture. You know what I mean? But the real satsang is when one is turned in one attention to the various representation of God that you have created, you see, or that you're going to use and so forth and so on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the secret. You follow me? That's counter-egoic. You follow what I'm saying? And that is what you must become responsible for. That's solid. You see? Our responsibility is to use these means and techniques to help us always be able to turn our attention to God. You see? And when you are able to do that, you see, all of this that you're struggling to do is transcended. You see, Tukaram Maharaji has, in one of his poems, he says that I am smaller than small, yet I feel the sky and all of space because I have raised my consciousness beyond this body. You see? Tukaram says that I have transcended the limitations of this physical body, and I have left my course behind. You see? And the way that one does all of that, you see, is attention. Attention. Give God your attention. You see? And when I say give God your attention, I know that you can't give God, right? Because God is not a form, therefore you cannot contemplate it. How can you contemplate that which is formless? You see? God is not like some object that you can look at, you know what I mean? God is that in which all objects, including you, is arising. God is context, not content. Or maybe he is both. I let you ponder that. You follow my argument, Ariasi? So this is what sadhana is about. You see. And then when your attention is thus turned to God in the form of your chosen methodologies, you see, Simran Bhajan or Dhyan in our case, in other traditions, there's other means, you see. These are not the only three means, there's many means. But in any case, whatever your principle means for contacting God, your attention must always be involved in that moment to moment. Moment to moment. This is the practice. This is the practice. And when you are turned in your attention to the divine, you are connected to the divine and thus made happy. You're already happy. The child only has to grab the mother's or father's hand again to be restored to a state of bliss. Nothing else, no popcorn, no, nothing else is needed. No ice cream cone, just the touch of the divine hand is enough. Feeling me?
Yes.
This is what you must do. You will feel good again automatically because you are now back in touch with the source of all happiness. You follow me? You touch your wife, and that's all over in about 15 minutes. Is that about right? 15 minutes tops. Then you get up and go make you a sandwich. We gotta do something else. And it don't always work. You see, just because you're always trying to make yourself feel good, doesn't mean you always succeed. We all know that. Right. Only every now and then you're able to pull it off. But that's enough to keep you devoted to your chronic, near pathological seeking. In order to feel good. And you try to make a life out of those moments. And that's what's so tragic. So you're not doing anything profound. All you are doing is stuff that you are hoping and praying will make you feel good. A little better. At least not worse. That's all you're doing. There's nothing sacred about it. There's nothing profound about it. You follow me? You read the spiritual books to make yourself feel better. Mentally, psychologically, emotionally. Then you go make a sandwich. And you some sex or watch some on a TV program. Next, nothing profound about it. Nothing sacred about it. Nothing deep about your life. This is all you're doing. This is all you are doing. Because you're not turned in your attention. You're not connected to that which is the source of anything deeper than that. See? In those moments of disconnect from the divine, via your attention, you are again a pumpkin. You are again mundane. You follow me? Nothing sacred. You're doing nothing sacred. You're doing nothing. That's not a spiritual life you live in. Most of you say, well, I'm on the spiritual path. I'm living a spiritual life. No. You're only calling it spiritual because you haven't looked at it. You're not living no spiritual life. You're living a life dedicated to the round-the-clock pursuit of something or someone and that you can have or get your hands on to make yourself feel good. And that's all you're doing. Nothing spiritual about it at all. Spiritual life is the life lived and communion with the divine via attention, that's spiritual life. You see my point? That's sacred life. That's profound. Not this stuff you're doing. Nothing profound about it. Absolutely nothing profound about it. You want to stop me now? we can at least salvage the day and not ruin it for you. Now that you know you ain't doing nothing. Maybe a little, your reaction may be depression to the truth. Doing nothing important. You're not up to anything important. Not at all. Deluded. You're doing something like what Don Quixote does. You know what I mean? You're on your imaginary steed with your imaginary, you're fighting a windmill thinking you're fighting a dragon. Deluded. Tukadam says that he has transcended the Maya of this world and has thus become illuminated, and that he now lives for the sake of others, for he himself is as vast as the sky. That's not like what you're not living for others. Who you kidding? You living for the city, you living for you. You ain't living here for no other people. You're not vast. You think you all are only just this body and mind. There's nothing vast about that assumption, don't you think? And so today you are to consider, do you want something more profound than the kind of life you have now? Do you want something deeper than what you've got now? Do you want something that is truly sacred and spiritual? Yes or no?
Yes.
You follow me? You got to find that out about yourself. But you can sit there in your little confused state of mind, to be or not to be. That's one of the characteristics of a deep state of ego, full of doubt. Just full of doubt, confused. You see, because you're living unconscious, That's why you're confused. You're unconscious. You're not inspected. You don't know what you're doing, and therefore you don't know what to do. When you don't know what you're doing, you won't know what to do. How could you? You're unconscious of it. You see? You're just the breeze floating on the surface somewhere. There's no depth in you. And then you die. I know you would want it to be otherwise, but it is not. I know you would want the end of the story of the ego to be happy ever after, but that's not it. There is no happy ever after for the egoic way of living. There is none. There may be hell ever after, but it's not happy ever after. And so you have to do that. You have to consider that. You see? You don't put it up for vote. You know what I mean? No consensus is required. It's a personal thing. You have to decide, what will you do? You follow what I'm saying? That's personal. You follow me? You got to make that decision. Otherwise, you just toss it into always feeling bad and trying everything you can to feel good, but always failing to feel good enough, long enough, and deep enough. Your life. Who will have the last word? Well, I got you on the tree now. That's my job. Everybody understands this, right? So, yes,
If the intention is pure, can you go wrong?
if a bird has wings, if a pig has wings, can it fly? Anything is possible with a hypothetical thing like that. You see my point?
Sure.
But there should be a way for you to know whether or not you actually do have real intentions versus, good intentions. You follow me? There's a way to know that, you see? And that's again involved in this deep investigation, you see? If what you intended to do is something that ultimately is done to make you feel better, you know what I mean? Then that's not a real intention. That's just disguising your own ego ambition as being something being done for the sake of others. But it has nothing to do with others, you follow me? It's something that you're doing for others to make yourself feel good. Are you with me? That's not a real intention. You follow me? That's just more egoic, dressed up in the garb of something high and spiritual. You follow me? It's just more stuff. You see. People get caught up in that all over the place. Reformers, world reformers, heal the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Many mystics come here while they are compassionate and they obviously live that compassion amongst those whom they are sharing the same time and space with, but that is not their mission. You follow what I'm saying? They have not made that the goal of their life. You see, Jesus says it best, I've not come here to send peace on earth. You know what I mean? I'm a peacemaker, but that's incidental. You follow me? That's not it. You see? This is Pinda. You follow what I'm saying? There is no utopia here. You follow me? You're not going to make everything all right. We're not all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. That is not going to happen. You follow what I'm saying? You're not going to save the whales. The whales too will perish, and so will you. Everything here dies. You follow me? It's the nature of this place, right? A real intention that something you're really doing on the behalf of the others necessarily cannot, by definition, be egoic. You follow me? It will cause you to very often have to do exactly what you don't want to do. Very often will be in the form of something that you don't even like. Are you with me? There's sacrifice very often involved in that process, you see. To do real intention don't necessarily feel good. You follow what I'm saying? Good intentions feel good because you're doing it to feel good. You follow me? Real intentions don't always feel good in the body. But then you are not moved in the practice of a real intention for the sake of feeling good. You follow me? There's a higher principle involved. You see? You're no longer functioning at the level of your likes, your dislikes, your comfort, discomfort. You see my point? You're operating from a much higher principle. You see? So there are ways to even psychologically make the distinction. You see? But you have to feel within yourself. And then you have to be truthful. You know what I mean? With yourself. Because only you know your real motive, you know? And what I'm saying, beloved, is that for most of us, our real motives are always to make ourselves feel better. You see, I want to do something for other people because I'll feel better as a human being. I feel that I've not wasted my life. So it could be even high order stuff. You see, but it's still high ego, low ego, it's still ego. You follow me? You're moving horizontally, you're not moving vertically. That's just more ego. So it gets to be a little bit complex. You follow me? And the tradition they call the practice of real intention with other people, for other people, in our interaction with other people. They have called that karma yoga. You see, it's a real yoga. And karma yoga is when you are focused on the act but not the outcome. You're never doing anything for the sake or expecting any reward, especially the reward of feeling good about it. That's God. You follow what I'm saying? It's karma yoga. You see? And karma yoga is usually a part of most authentic spiritual traditions, you see. Right? Seva is a form of karma yoga. You know, when you render service to other sentient beings, you then practice it at some level at least, karma yoga. You know what I mean? Karma yoga. And what is the best thing that you could do for another human being while we're on the topic? You see my point? I mean, while we're considering it, you see, we can give them material things, but how permanent is that? Right? We can give them knowledge, right? So forth and so on. The saints say that the best thing that we can do is to share with others that Dharma, you see, by which they may be able to bring their suffering to an end. That's perhaps the best thing that we can do for one another. You follow what I'm saying? So there's many different levels inside that we can look at it. But it's good, you see, that your heart begins to unfreeze a little bit. My dad used to always say that the more we really understand ourselves and thus practice on the basis of that self-understanding, one of the signs is that our heart become tender. Abiyasi was asking that same question earlier, what are the signs? You see, my dad, he said that your heart becomes so tender, you know what I mean, that it melts on seeing the suffering of other human beings, you know what I mean? It's a connection. You know, it's like mirror neurons, beloved. You're a neurologist. And we have these mirror neurons, right? And so my mirror neurons connects with your mirror neurons, which gives me the ability to experience your subjectivity. So if, when I leave here and I fall and I hit my head on the table, you'll cringe. Several laugh. But you'll cringe, right? Because his wife damaged all his mirror. He shut his mirror neurons off. He got a wife. You know, that's not safe to have mirror neurons and be married. But you get my point? So you feel what I feel inside. In fact, as you know, as a neuroscientist, that the firing patterns in the brain, in my brain, when that pain hits cruising through me, will be the same in you. Is that all right? Our patterns will be the same. It's like the rotation of a particle separated in space. When we spin, they spin simultaneously. That's the law. Well, as you become spiritually evolved, there's the real neurons, mirror neurons, is in the heart. That's the heart. That's what the mystics call the heart. And it becomes opened. Fair enough?
So I say unto you this morning, let the Lord's presence, let it go with you to work this morning. While you're driving your car, let the presence of the Lord, let it rest in you. Oh yes, you can take this presence that you are now receiving. Yes, you are now receiving the presence of the Lord. You can take it in the grocery store. You can take it on your job. You can take it to school. The presence of the Lord never has to cease. As long as He has an invitation, as long as you hunger and thirst after Him, it will come nigh to you. You need to see it this morning. Let your presence gently rest upon my heart. Lord, let your presence gently rest upon my heart. I need you. Let your presence gently rest upon my heart. My heart. Lord, let your presence gently rest upon my heart. I need you, Jesus. Let your presence gently rest upon my heart. Yes, Lord. Lord, let your presence gently rest upon my heart. Oh, I need your presence right now to come and rest upon my heart. Yes, Lord. I need your presence I just can't explain what's come over me. What's come over me? What's come over me? What's come over me? Don't tell me I stumble among you. Oh, it's my mind in a daze. But this can't be as real as I want it. Oh, you let me go and went away. Some kind of feeling. Just forget me now. Seems like I'm floating on a cloud. What could this be? What's come over me? What's come over me? I found yourself. Don't wanna let you go now. Hey, baby, don't hold your love you, baby. Don't you wanna
You see, I must have gone through some changes when I kissed your picture. And hey, my mind just keeps on looking, and you're all back to me yesterday. I've never been to heaven. Instead, I spent the night with you. Maybe that's the reason I don't know what to do. What's come over me?
Oh, baby, I love
What's come over me?